Now more than ever, we are confronted with the fragility of life and our connection to nature and our planet. Nature is showing us that humankind is on the verge of a breakdown. At least 1 million plant and animal species are likely to disappear soon. We are on the verge of a mass extinction unlike anything humankind has ever seen. We rely on nature for our energy, for our food, and everything we need. We can fix this, but only if we act now. It's time to ensure we have a future. It's time for nature.
Wake up.
Wake up.
Wake up!
This World Environment Day.
This World Environment Day.
Tell the world why it's time for nature.
It's time to show our leaders why nature matters.
Together or apart.
Juntos o separados.
Рядом или на расстоянии.
We will unite to make our voices heard.
We won't back down.
We will not back down.
Till we see real and lasting change to support this beautiful planet we call home.
Y reconectarnos emocionalmente con la naturaleza.
Tag your friends and leaders of corporations, companies, and governments.
To invite them to be part of the solution.
We need the planet more than the planet needs us.
Your planet, my planet.
It's time for nature.
It's time for nature.
It's time for nature.
Llegó la hora de la naturaleza.
Nature is sending us a clear message. We are harming the natural world to our own detriment. Habitat degradation and biodiversity loss are accelerating. Climate disruption is getting worse. Fires, floods, droughts, and superstorms are more frequent and damaging. Oceans are eating and acidifying, destroying coral ecosystems. And now a new coronavirus is raging, undermining health and livelihoods. To care for humanity, we must care for nature. We need our entire global community to change course. Let's rethink what we buy and use, adopt sustainable habits, farming and business models, safeguard remaining wild spaces and wildlife, and commit to a green and resilient future. As we work to build back better, let us put nature where it belongs, at the heart of our decision making. On this World Environment Day, it's time for nature.
Hello everyone, good afternoon, and a global namaste to everyone watching us and who is also joining us right now on Facebook and YouTube. Brother Vikram from Gayatri, Global Peace House, Mauritius speaking. So kindly accept our warmest greetings of peace in the context of the World Environment Day, which was celebrated yesterday, but we are holding this program today. So the Brahma Kumaris, Global Peace House, the organizer of this webinar on the above theme, which is Flourishing Futures, Enriching Biodiversity. We're organizing this webinar where the central focus will be on the term biodiversity, and which describe a variety of all forms of life on Earth. It includes the whole diversity of species and ecological systems on land, in water, and the air. It is acknowledged that over the past 100 years, human activity has had a very massively destructive impact on the natural biodiversity of the Earth and has largely contributed to the destruction of many ecological systems and species. The loss of biodiversity further interrelates with other global issues such as climate change, as well as an escalation of new and multi-drug resistant viruses. The Brahma Kumaris, as an organization that looks at global issues holistically, sees that changing the course of this downward spiral requires a deep shift in human consciousness. Humanity has, to a great extent, lost touch with the natural world. Along with this, respect and appreciation towards all species and ecological territories has largely decreased and has led to a further appropriation of what is not ours. Disregarding the fact that we are taking away the living space of other species. It is in this context that we are organizing this webinar, where we shall have several eminent speakers, each expert in their own field, so that we may have a holistic perspective to flourishing our biodiversity. This perspective, when we talk about flourishing our biodiversity, primarily proposes modifying the previously predominant focus on deficits. So it shifts from attempting to repair the worst things in life to instead highlighting the positive aspects, strength, virtues, and potential of the human being that exists within a biosphere of natural surroundings. Thus, it aims to elicit positive emotions, happiness, hope, and joy, as well as individual positive characteristic, strength, courage, and virtues. These are intended to translate to purposeful actions to promote and preserve such a flourishing world. So before starting, please, everyone who are watching this live stream, you may share it on your platform, be it YouTube or Facebook. So let's see who are here. So a quick hello from Sister Gayatri, and we'll just show them. So here we have Sister Gayatri, and just unmute your mic. So just give me a minute. So Sister Gayatri, Om Shanti, good afternoon.
Om Shanti, welcome to each and every one of you.
Great. Christy, how are you?
Hi Vikram, hi everyone. I'm fine, thank you, and I'm so pleased to be here today with you all.
Great, yeah, and Vasant, thank you very much for joining us.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Yeah.
Pleasure to be with you as well.
Okay, good. So Vikash Tataya is also going to join us in a while. So while we're waiting for him, I'm proposing to just do a little round of sort of ice breaking. So we are talking about biodiversity, and we just say that biodiversity is all about the animals, the flowers, and the species on the land, in the oceans, everywhere. So I will just ask every one of you, and also those who are watching us right now. Yeah, so it's like a little game, okay? So try to identify something from animal kingdom or plant kingdom, and then try to identify yourself with that species. It can be a bee, it can be a flower, it can be an animal, whatever. And let us share, why are you identifying with that particular fauna or flora, animal, bird, or flowers? Okay, so I just leave some space. Everyone can reflect. And also those who are watching us, you can also add on the live chat, like, what are you identifying with and why are you identifying with this? So I will start with myself. I've identified myself with a bee because I think that the bee has a capacity to take goodness from everything and spread it as a pollinator. So it's very important. It may be very small, but the talks that the bees are doing is very, very important. So here am I. So let us hear from everyone who can just, yes.
Okay, I choose swan. Swan because it has got the power of discernment and decision making. The very elegance in which it flies and wades in the water, it gives an insight of its royalty. The swan picks up pearls and rejects all that is not consumable for itself. So it can dive deep into the water and it can fly in the sky. So both one shows depth and the other one shows height. And I think as a human spirit, we need to have these two special qualities to be able to add harmony to this universe.
Sure. So thank you very much, Sister Gayatri. And I'd like to welcome Vikash. Vikash, you just joined us. So good afternoon, Vikash.
Good afternoon, and sincere apologies for the delay. It's a bit hectic around the house right now with all the kids around.
I can see, I can understand it. It's okay. So we're just starting a little sharing, Vikash. We just wanted to, everyone is identifying with a species, like a plant, a flower, or an animal, and trying to say why he or she is identifying to that particular person. So once they will be sharing, you will understand, and it will come to your time. So, Pasan or Krishna, who's ready?
Yes. For me, I would identify myself as a dolphin. I like this animal. It's an animal which is a mammal, so which came back to Earth and then back in the sea. It is free. It is free roaming, and it lives in community. It is very intelligent and shares a lot. And teaching is very important for this animal. They place a lot of time to teach to the small dolphins and to teach to the community of dolphins how to behave and how to fish and the fishing techniques. So I would identify myself as a dolphin.
Yeah, thank you, Vasin. I was something hinting that you would choose something from the ocean, so I was right. Like you chose a dolphin. Great. So Krishna.
So I think I would identify myself as a flower, maybe the rose, because the flowers, they give their fragrance very freely and gratuitously. So I like to believe that I also, as a human being, I like to aim to be that person who gives, her time, her energy selflessly and freely to others. So I think a rose would be, the flower I identify with.
Okay, thank you, Krishni. And maybe Vikash, you got the gist now? You could have a little sharing.
Yes, well, thank you. I mean, the species that I identify myself most with is a bird which is on Round Island, an island that I'll talk about soon, called the Round Island petrel. It is a very special bird that actually spends most, if not nearly all of its life at sea, and only comes to land to lay an egg and to raise a young. But it travels, we've been able to track the bird, and the bird is actually going between the Atlantic, the Indian Ocean, and the Pacific Ocean. So it's using 3 ocean basins, which is absolutely phenomenal. And for a bird that is can live up to 60 years. So it is a magnificent bird, and which I've had quite an honor to work with this species, and that's it's a hell of a species. I mean, it's of course all the species in the world are singular, but for me that's the one that actually catches my attention most.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Vikash. We'll hear definitely much more from your side. So let's just go now to how it will be for this webinar. So each of you will have a presentation around 15 minutes, and then we will be having some questions from the audience, those who are watching us, and also if you wish, we also have a little interaction from the speakers also. So we'll start with a Krishni. So Krishni is a lecturer in environmental. Let me put Krishni. Yes. So she's a lecturer in environmental law, I would say. And Krishni has many things, like we say, elle a many cordes à son arc. And I know her very, very much involved in youth advocacy, and she keeps on participating in many conferences here and there. And Krishna is also a member of the United Nations Association of Mauritius. And right now we were working with a project on the SDGs. And so Krishna, my question to you is like, okay, we're talking about biodiversity. So, of course, right now we know the situation of the COVID-19, and like everyone is occupied with his own survival, like we're not so much bothered about biodiversity. So this is kind of question for everyone that will come in a while. And so as a youth, how do you engage the young generation in protecting our nature and flourishing our biodiversity? And do you think that because you are in touch with the youth, do you think that they know the actual situation and the urgency of the matter? And so what is your experience as a youth and academics at the University of Mauritius, where you have been teaching and you have been participating in so many conferences? So what do you think is the way forward, Krishni?
Yes, so thank you for this question. Coming to your first question is, how am I helping young people to join in the fight to protect the planet, to protect biodiversity? So, as a lecturer at the University of Mauritius, I teach environment law. And through the teaching of this module, over the past 3 years, I've been trying not just, to teach them the basics of environment law, what are the laws, what are the policies, but, trying to leave a space after or in between each lecture to make them aware about their duties, towards the environment. So how do I do that? For example, last year you were also a participant, and Sister Gayatri was a speaker at the Climate Justice Conference, which was organized by the University of Mauritius and some other partners as well. So, by trying to organize such kind of conferences, workshops, we try to give the young people, I've empowered them to be able to be the ones organizing these conferences and, giving them the voice also to speak at the conference. So, for example, we had a panel which was completely focused on the youth at the conference, and I was really amazed by the participation, by the number of young people who turned up, and even though we were during, they had other lectures to attend, they chose to come to the conference, and we had a wonderful panel of. There was someone who came from the United States, from the Climate Reality, Al Gore's Climate Reality project, and we had another young person from Seychelles, and it was a very engaging and lively conversation where each young person, they try to, show what they were doing on the ground in terms of protecting the environment, and also coming up with recommendations, because, young people, their voices in the environment and the climate change space and, in any other space are not heard. So I think through empowering these young people, through showing them that they can be the leaders, I think that this gives them, a sense of responsibility towards the environment. And I have also been very surprised that since the past 3 years that I've been teaching the module, more and more young students at the university, the students on the LLB program, the law program, the law with management program, they have taken up, topics about the environment for their dissertation. So, have not been just teaching them, but I have also encouraged them to do research in the area of environment, biodiversity, climate change. So over the past couple of years, I have been supervising dissertations from these young people at the university, and you would be surprised at the level of, their maturity, their level of understanding of the situation, and how through research they are trying to come up with, genuine recommendations, so that, we can change the way that our policymakers, our legislators, they see the need to protect the environment. So I have been training them to become, I like to use the word stewards. So I have been training, and educating these young people through the module environment law to be environment stewards, and to become, hopefully, I can inspire them to become environment lawyers. So I was having a conversation with someone 1 year ago, and we were at this workshop organized by a private firm in Mauritius. And, I was really surprised because one of the lawyers present there, one of the barristers, told me that, Krishni, I wouldn't be able to attend your conference because, I'm so busy, I have other priorities, etc., etc. And, maybe the environment is not a priority for baristas. But we are seeing more and more how, the environment is, environmental disputes are becoming, more frequent. And we have been hearing about, the cases by the Environment and Land Use Tribunal. Okay, so I think that there is a space, there is a potential for young people who are going into the field of law. If they are passionate about saving the environment, I think that there's the space and the potential for them to become environmental lawyers. So I think that's the answer to your question. It's like empowering young people and making them aware about their duties as environment stewards. So the second way that I'm going to go into your second question is, and this joins the first question: are they aware about the need to protect the environment? So I'm happy to say that a lot of them are aware about the environmental degradation and the need to protect the biodiversity, to fight against climate change. A lot of them are aware. But unfortunately, as I've mentioned, a lot of young people, their priorities, they have different priorities. So they're growing up, they have, a set of challenges, they have their lives to take care of. And, all of us sometimes, we are selfish. So I think there is the need to educate people, young people especially, about the way that we need to take a stewardship approach to the environment. So maybe 50% of the young people in Mauritius, they are aware and they are contributing to safeguard the environment, but the other 50%, we still need to do the job of raising the awareness and making them understand their role in terms of protecting the environment. So for example, in Mauritius, it's a very encouraging that I'm not sure if you have heard about it, you must have heard about it. We have a group of young people, they are called the Fridays for the Future. So we have the Fridays for the Future initiative, that is a global initiative, and you have this group of young people who are present in Mauritius. So Fridays for the Future Mauritius, I have a student who is a representative of Fridays for the Future, and you would be amazed at the kind of awareness raising initiatives that they've been doing for the past year. And they do what is known as the climate strike every Friday. They have been doing it since the past year at Jardin La Compagnie. Obviously, in the COVID lockdown, they have not been able to do it, but they have been doing, striking online in webinars and trying to raise awareness. So I'm very, very pleased. And when I see this student, her name is Shama Sanduya, and you must have seen her. She has been very active on social media, posting, the dates that they're going to strike each Friday, posting, news reports about climate change, and what we can do, simple gestures that we can do as citizens to help towards protecting the environment. So when we're speaking about, do young people know about the danger and the crisis that we're facing, I'm very happy to know that I think a lot of them are out there. They know about the crisis and they are not just sitting down and not doing anything about it, but I think that they are working towards trying to solve the issue at whatever level they can. So, there has been a lot of criticism of young people because we say that young people, they're very complacent and they don't care about the environment. But we have seen around the world that through Greta Thunberg and her, and her willingness to make our world political leaders, understand that we are dealing with a crisis. And we have seen so many marches, so many strikes across the world, especially in September last year. So I think the youth, not all of them are complacent. A lot of them understand that, we are going through an environment and climate change crisis. And I think that in whatever way they are doing, in whatever way, every little helps. And it is very encouraging to see them taking such steps, to empower and raise awareness in terms of the crisis. So this is the answer to your second question. And can you, what was the third question, please?
Yes, Christy. So my question, I was talking about asking your experience, like as a youth and also as teaching at the university. So you were mostly, I think, talking about your profession. And maybe you think that the youth, we say that they are aware, but action and awareness are two different things. And mostly we see somewhere like we need to translate much of the awareness into action. So because we don't have time to, comme si dirait, on dit pour faire des rodages, we need to act quite quickly. And I think maybe if you could share something about this, like how do they see the urgency of the situation?
Yes. So, for example, I'm part of a couple of networks, of youth networks in Mauritius and around the world. So, in terms of action, we have the Global Shapers community, which is an initiative of the World Economic Forum. And I'm part of the Global Shapers Port Louis Hub. We have been, since our inception in 2012, most of our projects are focused on the environment and the ocean. For example, since the past 6 years, we have been running what is known as the Seeing Blue, Ocean Champion competition. So through this Young Ocean Champions, the YOC, so the Young Ocean Champions was an initiative that was set up to encourage young people to become aware about, the type of issues that we have in terms of protection of the ocean in Mauritius, marine debris, plastic pollution, erosion of, sand erosion, etc. So this was a competition that was set up under the Seeing Blue project. And over the past 6 years, we have had a very successful competition that was run, where young people every year, they are called upon to think about a project idea that would, around a theme related to the ocean, that would lead to concrete action, a project that would lead towards a concrete action to stop, for example, to reduce plastic pollution of the ocean, marine debris, etc. So we have had, I think, 5 competitions in the past 6 years, and we have had very, very good project ideas, and we have also been supporting the winners of the competition to implement their ideas, in a productive and effective manner. So we are very happy that, these young people have come up with very innovative ideas, and we're very thankful to our partners, private companies, NGOs also, who are already working in terms of ocean preservation and conservation. They have joined hands with us to help these young people make their project become, a reality. So this is one of the first initiatives, concrete action that young people have been taking. And also in terms of the networks, the Global Shapers Port Louis Hub have also last year, for example, on the World Environment Day, last year they conducted with one of the private firms in Mauritius, they conducted a beach cleanup. And they have been doing this in partnership with other companies since the past 5-6 years as well. So I think also we have also been doing roundtables. For example, we have been leading webinars also online to raise awareness about the issue of the environment and especially climate change. So what we did is 2 years ago, we organized a roundtable where we invited, all stakeholders in terms of protection of the environment. And also we launched a sort of campaign where young people were encouraged, to take care of the environment by, for example, taking small steps in reducing our consumption of plastic bottles. So this was an initiative that was very successful. And before the roundtable, what did we do is at the Indian Ocean Commission, we organized the viewing of a documentary, that was titled Plastic Ocean. So this documentary was viewed by 20 young people, and after the documentary they were so moved that they really said that we can't go on polluting our oceans and consuming plastics. So this was a kind of awareness raising session that we also did.
Yeah.
So these are the kind of actions that have been taken. Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you, Krishni. You will have some question already. You have already some question from the audience. Can you see the comments on your laptop? The comments that do you see them?
No, I can't.
Okay. So this is one question that we have Kanchan Singh Niti, who is asking, how can youth participate actively in making legislation concerning biodiversity? And another question is about how can the youth put pressure on government. So you won't answer it right now because we'll carry on with the presentation. So right now we'll have our next presentation, who is going to be Vasen. So thank you, Krishni. Just stay tuned with us. We'll come to you in a while. So here you are. So Vasen, quickly just introducing you. Well, I have researched on your biodata. There are so many things I won't say everything. I will just say to the audience that you're the regional coordinator for the Western Indian Ocean Coastal Challenge at the Indian Ocean Commission. And you are right now, you are a CEO, registered professional environmental engineer, I think the first one in Mauritius, and qualified oceanographer. So you own and you're director and main consultant of Delphinium Limited, and which is an environment and oceanography consultancy office. So Vasen, once again welcome, and my question to you is rather like Krishni just elaborated about the situation concerning the youth, but you have been following, I mean, I'm sure worldwide how things are happening. And so what do you think could be the firm, because we need action, firm and bold steps needed to be taken by all the sectors, not just the youth, but the government, the private sector, civil societies, the empowered citizen, to ensure the survival? Because first we need to ensure the survival and then the flourishing of our biodiversity. I'm sure that you will lead us to an overview of the current situation, and you have a very analytical mind. So how do you see, as a scientist, the future of our biodiversity? And I'm sure that the actual COVID situation has been a turning factor in tipping back the ecological balance, or I don't know if it's true. So let us hear from you, Vasen. You can go ahead.
Yes. Thank you very much. I think that the first thing that we have to realize is that we have to be the change that we want to see. The change has to come not from the government, not from the private sector, not from the NGOs. The change has to come from the bottom of the heart of every Mauritian citizen and every citizen of this planet, to understand that things have to be done to protect the environment. And in order to change our heart, we need to focus our mind on essential things. We have to focus, we have to concentrate, and we have to meditate on essential things, which is the fact that we are not alone. We form part of a global picture. So sometimes when you go out at night and you look at the stars, you don't realize that every particle forming part of our body is a small portion of a star which has died and which has produced these molecules which in fact form our body. And when life appeared on Earth 3.8 billion years ago, and evolved along all those times, each and every portion of the life form that we have on Earth has a role to play. Sometimes you look at a small insect, a small ant walking on the floor, and you just crush it. Or you just look at a bee and you say, oh, this is an insect, so let's put some pesticide. Or even a tree, even a mammal, even a bird. Each component of our surrounding environment has a role to play. Without bees, we won't have enough food on the planet because bees act as pollinators. Ants transport certain elements in the soil. So every animal that there is on Earth, every form of life, even the bacteria and the viruses, we heard a lot about viruses. Viruses play a very important role in genetic mutations because they bind to our DNA, our inside our cells, and they change it because they bring external DNA from other animals or other plants in our own DNA to change it and transform it, allowing us to evolve and adapt to climate change and other challenges that we have. So from the viruses, tiny viruses, to the blue whale, which is the biggest animal that has ever evolved on Earth, each and every portion of life on this planet is important. And we humans, we are now focusing our mind on other things, which are non-essential. When we get up in the morning, we think about going to work, we think about our loans we have to pay at the end of the month, we think about getting for entertainment, we think about those things, but we forget our central role as humans forming part of a global picture. And I think that what is very important, and what happened, in fact, with this COVID pandemic, is that we had no other choice than to stop, to reflect, and to be introvert instead of extrovert. Human beings tend to be extrovert. They like to show their nice cars, their nice clothes. They like to go in these ways. But we don't look inside our soul, inside our body, inside our house, inside our garden. We tend to want to show off instead of look inside ourselves. So in this pandemic, I think that it was a very, very strong signal that there are things which are stronger than humans. Because we humans sometimes think that we are the master of the universe, that we govern everything, that we change everything, and that nothing can defeat us. But a small thing, which is the smallest living thing on Earth, a virus, showed us that they could stop us. And this was, in fact, I think, for me, a message that we have to look inside ourselves. Where did we miss? Why did this situation happen? And also, very importantly, we need to learn our lessons from what has happened. Because we already see, once now we are starting to deconfine slowly in many countries and in Mauritius, that people want to go back to the previous situation, just before the COVID, and think that everything will be similar again, but it won't be similar. So the biodiversity of life is one of those important components which shows us that we as human beings, we form part of a global picture. Humans have a role to play on Earth, and one of their role and duties is to protect nature. Nature is not only nice flowers, nice fish, nice corals. Nature is about protecting our house. We don't always think that every breath that we take when we get up, when we get born on this earth, the first breath of air that we breathe comes from the oceans, from the trees, from the oxygen which is produced by the ocean organisms and by the trees. We forget that 71% of our body is water. Water comes from the oceans, the clouds, the rain. Whatever we eat is produced by bacteria producing nitrogen, helping the plants to grow, and we eat those plants. So we forget that our role inside the system is linked to the health of this system. And whenever we are doing something against nature, we are destroying our own humanity. We are destroying our own future and the future of our children. And that's why I think that it is very important to get introvert and to meditate about our role in this humanity and also the role we have to play. It is very good to get and to create this conscience, this environmental conscience. And I think that's the first step. We are talking about actions. We need to get this conscience on the table. People have to be environmentally conscious. They have to become stewards for the environment. As the former lecturer just said it now, we have to be stewards. So we have to be conscious, and we also have to be conscious that being conscious is important, but we have to act for our future. Act as part of a bee which forms part of a beehive, not as a bee which is the king of the beehive. So to look at our role in the global picture. We now understand as scientists that biodiversity is critical for the survival of humanity. And many, many species in the oceans and on Earth are disappearing very, very quickly around the globe. So the first thing that we have to know is that every action that we make has a reaction. So every positive or negative action has a positive or negative reaction towards nature. We have gone too far against nature. We have overfished the oceans. 2/3 of the fish stocks around the world are overfished or fished to their maximum levels, and fish may kindly disappear from the oceans in 2050 if we continue like this. In Mauritius, 80% of our corals have already disappeared. They are dead. The fish are sometimes overfished in our lagoons as well. We don't care about the amount of solid waste. We just put them in the bins. We don't recycle them. We don't do anything with it. So it just goes into a landfill, which is polluting our water. We produce 60 to 70% of our electricity using fossil fuels, polluting our atmosphere, causing climate change. We use our cars very often. We don't plant anymore. We don't have this contact that we need to have with the earth and with the water of the oceans. So we need to reestablish this contact with nature, to reestablish what is our real role and our real importance in the global context. We are not the masters of the universe. We are one piece of the global puzzle. So I think that once this is established, we have to take concrete actions. And concrete actions that we have to take for our environment is actions which are coherent, which are global actions. We have to work hand in hand to make the environment better, to protect our biodiversity. It's not only the governments, it's not only the private sector, it's not only NGOs. It's each and everybody as part of the global picture which has to act. Government has to pass very strong laws and implement them in terms of protection of the environment. The private sector has to take its own responsibility and move towards circular economy, blue economy and green economy, which are the economies of the future. NGOs have to continue to play their role in educating and sensitizing younger generations and the citizens about the situation. Academics have to educate about the need for science to help in order to achieve those goals. So it's a teamwork that we have to do. Around the world, we know that now many young people are raising their voices because they're afraid about their future. They see that if the situation continues as it is now, they will have no future. And that's why you have Fridays for Future. You have many, many movements in the younger generation asking us and taking us to task. Taking us to task is a good thing because this will allow us to look backwards and to question ourselves, to question our economic models, to question the way we do things. And it is through questioning, it is through shocks, like the shock that we have with the COVID, that humanity will change and will put itself into question, allowing it to be introvert again, to think at its role in the global picture, and to act constructively to build a new future. There is a new wave happening. And in those ways, there are two pathways for humanity. The first one is all those people who think that the economy, the society as it is, people as they are, we will go back to the similar situation as in December 2019, which is prior to the COVID. And there are a few people already who have seen that the future will never be like the past. And it is time now to create this new future, make better humans as part of the human community, look inside ourselves, meditate on our future, create and have the vision of a better future, protecting our biodiversity and our future. And this path will lead us to new economic systems, circular economy, blue economy, green economy, planting in your garden, if you can, some vegetables, and looking into the basics of life, of the basics of human being. We are here, we must be humble, we must be proud of being humans, but we must be humble about our role in this global picture of the universe. And I think that this is going to get us in a better future. And we all have a role to play into this picture.
Thank you, Vasen. I think what you just said Yes, what you just said, captivate my mind, because I was thinking, how would you connect what's happening with what's happening inside our mind, inside our heart, inside our soul. So it's really like we don't need to go far to start something. Let us start right from our home, from our heart, and do things concretely. And I'm sure that our next speakers will carry on this wave. So our next speaker, we have Vikash. So Vikash is here. So thank you, Vikash, for staying with us. So just a very quick introduction of who Vikash is. So Vikash is my new friend. So Dr. Vikash Tataya, he is a conservation director and assistant treasurer of the Mauritian Wildlife Foundation, and he has been active in conservation for over 23 years. So just before joining conservation, he was trained in agriculture, and he conducted a doctoral study on the Round Island petrel, which he just mentioned, and he manages conservation programs on Mauritius, Rodrigues, and Outer Islands. So he was also he won many awards, and just like to say that he was Outstanding Young Person 2009. So Vikash, welcome. And so what is my question for Vikash is, like you were just mentioning examples in Mauritius. So yes, could you just give us an examples in Mauritius and elsewhere of how humankind has the ability to bring back nature to its original state, because this is what we want. And of course everything needs a planning. So how do you see that we can make a planning, and how with the cooperation of all can this be possible? And I'm sure Vasen mentioned about the mindset. So how do you see the mindset of people changing? Yes, Vikash, so let's hear from you.
Okay, I will try. I actually have thank you very much for the introduction, Vikram, and hello to everyone. What I'd like to do, I'll see whether we can share the screen, because I've got a PowerPoint that I've presented, a short PowerPoint which I like to produce, because it's important for us to understand the environment, the ecosystems that we have in Mauritius and in Rodrigues, and how they become degraded. We see enormous amount of greenery around Mauritius, and we think that the island is beautiful, is green. However, underlying that is actually an island that is very degraded. It's one of the most degraded islands in the world, and I will explain to you why that is the case. So let's see if we can share the screen. Okay, let's hope it works. Does this work? Hello?
You have to share screen, yeah, click on share screen, and then you have to choose what presentation, what window you want to share.
Yes. Are you seeing something moving on the screen? No.
No, you have to click share.
Okay, let's try to do that. So I say share screen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it doesn't. Okay, it's probably not working.
So if you want, you can send it to me if it's possible on mail. Meanwhile you talk, I will look if it's possible. I can.
Okay, let's try again. Share screen. Sorry for this. Okay, let's try again. Okay. So please bear with me on this one.
It's okay.
So are you seeing my screen right now?
No. Okay, so Vikash, what I suggest you send me your presentation on my mail, and I will ask Krishni if you are ready for the question. You can just share the question, because we have some question for you. So I'll just put Krishni on
let's do that.
On screen, and you have two questions,
yes.
Krishni. And so how can the young participate actively in making legislation concerning biodiversity? I don't know if there's something particular in the law concerning biodiversity, and and also the second question, if we could put it together, it's the same thing more or less. Can we put pressure to stop government from I think that's a very wide and often like FAQ. How can we stop with pressure to stop government from undertaking projects that go against environmental protection? So maybe you can clarify how about the EO, I mean impact, how does it work really, and how can we citizens like do something in it? Yes, Krishni.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So I will answer this second question first. So in terms of how just not young people, but members of the public actually have two forms of remedy in terms of the law if they want to stop projects that go against environmental protection. So one of them is under the Environment Protection Act, we have the Environment and Land Use Appeal Tribunal, and any citizen who feels aggrieved by, for example, a project and feels that the project is
I think that
to undermine the environment and destroy the environment, and or for example platforms, they have managed to bring a case against the government, against private sector firms. Until as recently as last year, the Environment and Land Use Appeal Tribunal gave a decision in the case of there was the fish farming case, and in essence the NGOs which were members of that platform, they managed to win the first stage of a trial. So this is one of the ways that members of the public, they can come together within a platform, NGOs, members of the public, and they can start a case against the government or the private sector in terms of projects that potentially might affect the environment. So the second kind of avenue that is available is in Mauritius, which is slowly developing, is known as public interest litigation, also known as PIL. So public interest litigation is if any citizen living in Mauritius, if the citizen feels that, for example, a project is going to be detrimental to the environment, then that individual, as a concerned individual, can, sue the government or any private sector firm that is going ahead with a development in Mauritius. So this is known as public interest litigation, and we have seen that it is starting to develop in Mauritius. We have for example, in other countries like India, in countries like Latin America, and in Europe, for example, there have been a lot of organizations, for example, have been organizations or even people, persons, citizens, they have been successful in bringing a case, for environment degradation against their governments or against private firms. So these are the two types of actions that can be taken, and these cases, sometimes it's not easy to bring these cases because you need to have a very good case, you need to have, a good legal team, and most of the time, because it's difficult to find lawyers who would be, available or willing to fight these kind of cases because, of the kind of repercussions which it can have. For example, some governments, they don't like, they're not appreciative of the civil society making these kind of cases. So these are the kinds of legal avenues that are open to citizens, and not just to young people, but any kind of civil society organization or a movement that is against, a particular kind of development that would be affecting the environment. So in terms of the first question, I think it was how can young people contribute in terms of legislation for the biodiversity. Comment les jeunes peuvent activement, in making legislations concerning biodiversity. So unfortunately, in Mauritius, there is no kind of process where young people, they can, actively participate in making legislation. In Mauritius, it's the parliament which is given the task of making laws, of making legislation. And it will be the government which will be in charge of executing the legislation, and the courts, they they enforce the legislation. So I think the only way that young people can be engaged is through public participation, is, you know, trying more and more, like, you know, Fridays for the Future Mauritius, they have been writing open letters to the government, even, you know, writing, going and delivering, you know, their, you know, reports, their own letters to the government to, you know, make them, for example, come up with laws that would be more protective of the environment, and also, you know, taking measures in terms of the legislation to amend the legislation, you know, to put in place structures and processes that would be more, you know, protective of nature. So these are the ways that, you know, you can, as a young person. Yeah.
Thank you, Krishni. Maybe I would like to hear from Vasen how things goes around the world, because Mauritius, we can't just take it as an example, because our constitution is based on the UK. But I know in many countries, like, there are active participation, there are like councils that are set up before we go for. Maybe if you have some examples, Vasen?
Yes. One thing I just wanted to add is that in the Environment Protection Act, there is a provision for public consultations. So whenever there is a project requiring an environmental impact assessment at the level of the Ministry of Environment, any person feeling aggrieved by this project may send comments, public comments, to this to the ministry, and the ministry will consider them prior to going into the legal battle of the Environmental and Land Use Appeal Tribunal. But I think that sometimes we underestimate our power as citizens to act and make things change. I'll take just one example, which is the example of the pollution with the plastic bottles. We all complain that there are plastic bottles polluting our island. We all made proposals that the plastic bottles should have a consigne, so that people could get their money back when they bring it back. But we are still seeing plastic bottles polluting our environment, and that's, I think, the worst visual pollution that we are seeing now. But we as citizens, we can act very, very forcefully simply by stopping to buy plastic bottles. We are the end consumers. We consume them, and that's why they are in the nature. If we didn't consume them, all the factories making those plastic bottles will have to shift to other ways of production, maybe glass bottles with a consigne that they could bring it back. So we underestimate our power as consumers, and that's why we need to act collectively. So collective actions, apart from the legal collective actions, I think, which are very clear at the level of the Environment and Land Use Appeal Tribunal, collectively, we can set up strategies in the population to say, look, it is now our concern that we are having plastic pollution in the nature. Let us all stop buying plastic bottles as from tomorrow. And you'll be doing two good things. The first thing is you're going to stop the pollution by plastic bottles in nature, and secondly, you'll be saving a lot of money. You know what is the cost of water? 1 liter of water that you buy from the Central Water Authority, if you boil it or if you use it, is less than 1 cent a liter. You're buying 1 liter of water, 15 rupees, when you buy it in a plastic bottle. So you pollute, you pay a lot, whereas you have the alternative of stopping to pollute and saving money. So it's only a question, I think, of realizing again our place in this global puzzle. We think that we are weak, but we are very strong. So coordination, the action of NGOs, sensitization issues can not only curb the pollution, but they can also help the government to enforce and create new legislations by going through lobbies, creating young lobbies like Fridays for Future, writing letters to the ministry about your concerns. But actions can be done very peacefully, and they can curb these things simply if we realize our power as individual citizens in the consumer market.
Thank you, Vasen, for your sharing. I think that was a very useful tip, that we are really indeed powerful, but we underestimate our power. So coming back to Vikash. Vikash, I think you have to go ahead with, because I haven't received your files, so I think you have to go ahead with your presentation and without your... Can you share your screen? Is it okay? Are you able now?
I think there might be a problem, but I'd just like to jump on what Vasen has just said. I mean, it's quite important to understand something, is that very often a lot of the causes needs a champion. And what we do not have in Mauritius are champions who go out there who are going to fight for a cause. You know, they're upset about something and they go out and they say out loud what they mean and that they fight for it. There are very few cases of that, and one of them is actually Fernie Valley. That was, if there has been one environmental victory in Mauritius, it was Ferney Valley, where through public protest, started with one person, two persons, an organization, two organizations, public protest and public concern, and it overturned the decision to build a road through the valley. And there are very few examples of that in Mauritius. And I wouldn't underestimate the power of the civil society to actually bring about several of these changes. But it needs organizations that champion these causes. I would also like to add that it's actually very difficult to actually take things to the Environmental Appeal Tribunal to try to stop a project or to stop a decision. Yes, it's there in the law, but you're not facilitated to actually undertake such a bold step. There are many barriers. There are many people who will try to discourage you as well. So, in my opinion, we've taken some of these to the Environmental Appeal Tribunal, and we have failed in many of them. In most of them, we have failed. So it's very rare that we actually get victories in this fight. And one of them that I'm involved with right now, which is one that's gone to the court, is to stop the culling of bats on Mauritius. And I can tell you that there are people who have been there's evidence that they've been killing bats. It's on video. They've shared it on Facebook. Quite disturbing videos taken to the police, and by one way or the other, I can tell you what happens. We bury the cases. They are not prosecuted. So the system is a very difficult system as well to work with, because it doesn't encourage a lot of these actions to go to the level of prosecution. And I know of a lot of these cases which are never prosecuted, and even, for example, encroaching on wetlands. There are so many cases of these and people are very rarely prosecuted, or they get away extremely lightly if they get they get away scot-free. Now, sorry, I had to intervene on that one, but to come back to what would have been my presentation is the fact that in Mauritius we have 400 plus years of colonization history. We are one of the islands that was the last colonized in the world, and a small island, but from the minute that men landed on Mauritius, very quickly they started harnessing the environment for their own benefits. And that is classical throughout the world. So they started taking the resources, they started killing the birds, they started clearing the land to make way for agriculture, and making settlement. They found that the hardwoods were really very valuable, so those were chopped down very quickly. They needed food, so the birds were killed for food, but also tortoises were killed, were even exported out of Mauritius, and the meat was burned down to produce fat, which was going to light up the candles on ships and all of that. So quite gruesome, and within very rapidly the island lost unique ecosystems, unique vegetation, unique plants and animals. All they declined precipitously, and so we've lost. We have one of the highest extinction rates of anywhere in the world in Mauritius and in Rodrigues. We have very little forest left. Native forest. When I talk of forest, I'm talking of native forest. On Mauritius, there's less than 15% vegetation cover. There's less than 5% forest with native plants which were here before the arrival of man, and there's less than 1.3% of good quality forest left on Mauritius. We've lost over probably up to 24, 25 different species of animals just on Mauritius. On Rodrigues, they've lost nearly all the forest on Rodrigues, except for small patches of forest here and there. They've lost equally about 20 odd species of plants and of animals. We've lost around 10% of our plants already extinct, if not more. And of the plants which are unique to Mauritius, what we call endemic plants, we have more than 95% of our endemic plants which are highly threatened. Some of them are down to just one individual. And you know, there's a famous palm in the Kyope Botanical Gardens, which is it's the loneliest palm in the world, plant in the world, because it's just by itself, and there's not a single plant in cultivation. And in Rodrigues, similarly, we've had plants that have gone down to one individual, the Café Marron of Rodrigues. We had the hibiscus of Rodrigues, which went down to 2 individuals. And on Mauritius, we had the Mauritius kestrel, which went down to 4 individuals, including a single breeding female. And all of these seem to be hopeless cases when I present it like this. However, Mauritius has some of the most remarkable conservation successes in the world. We have saved more species of birds here on Mauritius and Rodrigues than anywhere in the world. And that includes the most powerful nation in the world called United States of America. And that even includes with the other champion of conservation in the world called New Zealand. And so we've saved the pink pigeon, the Mauritius kestrel, the echo parakeet, the Rodrigues fody, and the Rodrigues warbler. These are all endemic birds, unique birds in the world. And we've done significant progress in saving the Mauritius fody, the olive white-eye. We've saved a huge number of endemic reptiles. And we've had some successes with plants. Yes, it's a big challenge, but we've saved quite a number of plants. What is very important to bear in mind is that even when things seem to be dire, I was talking of champions. You need champions to say, I'm going to work, even with the failures, even if the successes are going to be slow, even if it's going to take me 30 years or a lifetime to get meaningful success, I'm going to take that challenge. And people have done it in Mauritius, and they've had some successes. Very often my father says to me, God doesn't give you a problem if there isn't a solution to it. And unless the species have gone extinct, of course, then there's nothing that can be done. But unless the species have gone extinct, and we shouldn't be waiting for that to happen, that they are close to extinction, is we should be putting into places the measures that will prevent decline and prevent extinction. Because every single species, especially endemic species on islands, are very, very important. They are very important for our DNAs, the DNA of the island that we live in. It's important because it's part of God's creation. It's important because we have created a lot of problems, but we have to be the ones that are championing the solutions. It's important because these species play important roles in the environment. They are very important for the ecosystems. They are very important for the air that we breathe. They are very important for the water that we get. It's very important for the forest. They are very important for detoxifying the environment. They're important in so many respects, and we have to fight for them. Yesterday, I was in a Zoom session with somebody from New Zealand who said something which was very, very interesting. He said, the economy is a full subsidiary of the environment and not the other way around. He was saying this in the context of COVID, how we treat environment has been one of those things out there. It's important to get tourism. Of course, I'm not saying it's not. It's important to get livelihoods. It's important to get the schools opening and all of this. And it's important to give people who've lost their jobs some sort of support. And I don't deny any of that. However, we are forgetting that the environment is so important. We are forgetting that we have to invest in the environment if we are to have healthy ecosystems, if we are to have healthy populations of animals and plants and human beings. And we are missing a whole point about what is the most essential, the quintessential, is that we have to save our environment, and everything else will come with it, whether it is fisheries, better fisheries, whether it is better agricultural production, whether it is better air, whether it is better livelihood, better quality of life, whether it is tourism. So I think we are making a big mistake by not making environment a priority in this country and around the world. And you know, we were also talking of how this, when you think of an oil tanker that moves, and if we say the oil tanker is the world environment, it takes 2 or 3 kilometers to stop an oil tanker. And for the global economy, everybody was saying, you can't stop the global economy. You've got to go with it, and despite the environmental damage which this tanker is causing, you have to go with it. And we can't stop that oil tanker. Well, as Vasan was saying, a very tiny virus has actually caused the oil tanker to come to a halt. And we are seeing some positive environmental results from the 3, 4, 5 months of a lockdown and slowdown in the economy, which everybody said was going to be impossible, even for a day, even for a week. You couldn't slow down the environment, the economy, so the environment could benefit. And yet, this tiny virus has done it for us. However, why is the window very, very small? Is that we are going to find a solution to this virus. We are going to find a vaccine for it. We're going to get over this virus, and people would have forgotten about what we needed to do in terms of saving the environment, really saving the environment. We've stopped talking about climate change. Climate change has not gone away. Yes, right now, because of the urgency, we're talking of COVID, but climate change is very much in the forefront of the environmental degradation that's happening around. It calls for us all, to rethink in Mauritius, for example, shouldn't we be trying to push to have more forests? I've been saying this for the past 20 years and plus, that we need to be doing large-scale restoration of forests. Today, Mauritius is growing half of the sugarcane sugar production that it did 20 years ago. We used to produce over 600,000 tons of sugar. This year, we probably will just barely make 315,000 tons of sugar. There's a lot of sugarcane land which has been abandoned. Can we think, shouldn't we be converting this empty land into forest again, bringing back the forest, bring back the ecosystems, rather than thinking, are we going to build IRSs and VI and all these funny smart cities and commercial centers and roads and all this great infrastructure, which actually is not going to solve our long-term solutions, our long-term problems. Just one figure, I'll leave you with one figure. The New Zealand budget was approved recently, and they put in $1 billion in conservation. 1 billion New Zealand dollar in conservation. Just think about that. And the reason why they they managed to convince the politicians to put a 1 billion New Zealand dollar in conservation and environment is because they said to themselves that the jobs which will have the most multiplier factor are jobs that are linked to the environment. So they're doing green buildings, they are restoring forests, they're cleaning up their oceans, and they're doing so many other things for the environment because they know that will have such a multiplier effect that no other sector will have. So I think it's the same. Sorry, my presentation didn't come across, but I think I just wanted to. The change in mindset is very important. And one last thing which I wanted to say, and in fact, your invitation, Vikram, to join this forum is most welcome. And we have very recently been in touch with the Conseil des Religions, because in the conservation movement, a lot of people think that scientists don't believe in God. I would say 90% of scientists are believers. They believe in something, whatever you call this God. They'll believe in creation at least. Whether you are a Darwin fan doesn't mean you don't believe in creation. We have, for a long time, we've been saying if you support Darwinism, you don't support God's creation. They're the same thing. And in fact, most of the prominent scientists in the world support the idea of God's creation and of plant believers. What we want to do, and we've engaged ourselves in it, and it is in our conservation strategy 2020 to 2025. Unfortunately, we've had a bit of delay because 2020 we started with 6 months of COVID, was to engage with religious organizations. All of our scriptures, whether it is the Bhagavad Gita, whether it is the Quran, whether it is, you name it, talks of creation, talks of protection of environment, talks of life being so important. And we are wanting to align ourselves with religious organizations so that we can work together to bring about the change. If we put a Facebook post, we will have 50 likes or 500 likes, and the next day people will forget about it. But if we align ourselves with the religious people, and if we align ourselves with the messages that are being taught and that are being said, in kirtans, bhajans, or in mosque prayers, or in Sunday prayers, or whichever day is being held, that has a lasting impact on people. And which is why we support there is a missive which has come from the Pope. We are trying to align ourselves with this message, but we like to align ourselves with all messages that beyond, cutting across all confessions. We need to have this association with religion and making religious organizations part of our allies to bring back the environment to what it needs to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Vikash, for your sharing, and I'm sure I'm very agreeable to you because I myself have been participating in the last 3 COP conferences, and we see that there are a lot of faith-based organization movements that are involved with climate change because it's more like what you're saying. We need some role models ahead of us, so that we need to walk the talk, because otherwise you can't just go and presentation, conferences, so many conferences happening in the world. What's happening? What's the end result? There are conferences happening on those conferences. Why are the conferences? Where is the budget? Where is the money going? Where are the funds going? At the end, who are receiving all these things? So I think that somewhere we are missing something, and that is very important. We are much more, as Vasena said, going on the extrovert. But I think somewhere we need to go back within ourselves. And that's why we have Sister Gayatri with us. So thank you, Vikash. Stay with us. We have Sister Gayatri with us, and Sister Gayatri, who is coordinator of the Brahma Kumaris Global Peace House. And Sister Gayatri is also one of the initiators of many programs in Mauritius, what we call the sustainable yogic farming, which is an attempt to restore biodiversity, to restore nature back to its state. And definitely we'll come on this later. But what we want to hear from Sister Gayatri, so Sister Gayatri, welcome back. So Sister Gayatri, what do you think? We have a lot of figures, we have a lot of information. So what could be the shift in consciousness that humanity needs to undergo and cultivate so as to create a sense of inclusiveness in all that we do? Because at the end we need to realize that we are all one family, one nature, and living on only one planet. There is no planet B as backup, as we say. So where do we start, sister, and how can we bring our contribution to flourish our biodiversity?
Om Shanti. Greetings of peace, light and spiritual power to all of you. I have been following all the three speakers with great interest, and I would say that I have been picking up very beautiful insight from what you have been saying to bring into my sharing. Of course, I'm not a specialist in environment as such, but I'm going to dwell more on the environment within, the environment of the mind and the heart. So in my humble capacity, I would say that I really love this topic, flourishing future. Who would not like to have a future which is really flourishing? I'm sure when we have seen all these things that are the not so beautiful seeds that have just been described, we are already thinking of what could be the opposite of seeing perfection, beauty, the splendor, the harmony, the respect, and so on and so forth. So I'll start with the word consciousness, as you rightly said, shift in consciousness. And the things that I picked out from each of you, first thing was when Krishna was speaking about laws. We have what we call man-made laws, and we all know nul n'est censé d'ignorer la loi. We're not supposed to break the laws. We know what are the consequences and the penalty. So we have what we call man-made laws, then we have natural laws, and then we have what we call spiritual laws. So when we speak about natural law, man-made law, we all know if we break some law, we have to pay penalty for it. And when we talk about natural laws, scientists have described about 4 or 5 like natural laws, but I would say there's unlimited natural laws which we are not aware of. It has been mentioned that Sir Isaac Newton discovered the law of gravity by observation. So he went still, he was quiet, he was very much relaxed, so to say, and the truth came to him, and he developed what we call the law of gravity. And that came up as today we know it very well how it functions. But the invisible laws that in which the nature is being governed, we are oblivious as a human race. We are oblivious to those natural laws. They were obvious to the sages. They were obvious to the poets, to those who were really very close to nature. And I would say I congratulate you all three who have been moving so close to nature. But I will be working more on the nature of the human spirit. Then the second thing, when Brother Vasan was speaking about consciousness, the focus, meditation, introversion, they are very much in our jargon and our vocabulary. We're going to take it further. And the third thing, our third speaker, Brother Vikash, painted a very clear picture of the violence, the harm, the chaos, the havoc we have been collectively contributing to bring the state of affairs as it is today in nature. Because all of us, we are guilty somewhere, somehow, by consuming. We have this habit of consuming too much, and people are hardly aware of what harm we are creating by going for more consumerism. And Brother Vikash spoke about something very beautiful about speaking about the one victory, about Feni Valley. I would say there's not one, but many victory we can have. And also your reference to God as a supreme being. And I would say, therefore, that life is a game between 3 eternal forces. Those 3 eternal forces are the soul, the human spirit. The body dies, subject to law of nature. Then we have the supreme being God, although invisible, but he is bel et bien présent, like we are talking right now. But how are we talking? What is the basis for our sharing? It's in the mind, it's in the thought. And this is also invisible. So God's existence, so we as human spirits, then God, and the third is matter, the world of nature. We say the atom are indestructible, but changeable. So change is the law of nature. We have seen changes going on since we are here on earth. And the changes also follow a pattern. There's a cycle. Those in the agriculture, you are very much conversant with that. That when we are long ago, people used to do agriculture. They used to leave 1/4 of the land they were doing agriculture on, to leave it fallow for some time so that it regenerates. Then it can become more productive, so to say. So what is happening to the human spirit? Why is it that today we are not really aware of things? One of the, not one, but many sages, if you study what they have been speaking long ago, they say that life is also a play between two words, consciousness and unconsciousness, forgetfulness and remembrance. That reminds me of a monk. I think most of you must have heard about it. There was a monk in a monastery who was doing a lot of meditation, and he dreamed that he was a happy butterfly fluttering from, one flower to another, enjoying its flight, enjoying nature. When he woke up, he wondered whether he is a butterfly dreaming that he has become a man. When we go into our own reflection in silent mode, when we are deeply at one with ourselves, at one with nature, there are a lot of things that we can, sort of flotter, comme on dit, coming up on the surface of our mind, things we can't grasp really, but it leaves us a very nice feeling. I think those of you who are in nature, Brother Vikash and Brother Vasan, who spend a lot of time in nature, you must have enjoyed those moments when you are one with nature. And as such, as human spirits, one of the most fundamental, biggest mistake we have done is the forgetfulness of the self, of the inner self, of the soul as spiritual beings. And that reminds me of one of the sayings which Teilhard de Chardin, one philosopher, said, and it is still running in our circles. He said, it's not that we are human being having spiritual experience, but we are spiritual beings living human experience, and that changes everything. It just suffices for us to go into that silent mode, reflect over it. If we say we are spiritual beings, where does that bring us to? It brings us to our real identity, authenticity. And nowadays life has become so artificial. How come? When we came into this onto this earth, which is considered to be a stage, we took this human body, and across time, slowly and slowly, we forgot our true identity and started to identify ourselves almost 99.9% as a physical being. On peut constater ça dans notre vie personnelle. If you are asked, who are you? What comes first in your mind? What comes first in your mind? It's your physical picture of your gender, your profession, the family, the country where you are from, etc., etc. There are a lot of labels we are carrying, a lot of roles we are playing. But who is behind those roles? Have we ever posed and asked ourselves this question? And nowadays, as we are observing that there are two different waves going parallel. One is the destructive wave, great violence, a lot of havoc being already enclenché, comme on dit. And the other side, we have a growing interest in spiritual matters. Lots of people, like you said about the power of prayer, I would refer to rather the power of our thought. When we come back to our identity, we are composed of the body and the soul. Because the body is visible, it attracts our attention more, whereas the soul, being invisible, has been neglected. We have impoverished the soul to such an extent that we have denied its existence. Just like the body is made up of the 5 elements of matter, if one of those 5 elements is in imbalance, we do not have a good health. Now, what is it the composition of the soul or the spirit? The soul or the spirit has got its own type of food. And what are they? Before I come to that, I will come back again to what we refer to as the 5 elements of matter. When we are identifying ourselves with the 5 elements of matter somewhere, somehow, we have taken one of the characteristics of nature is change. We are craving for change. All the time, change, change, change. If our TV set goes stand still for a few seconds, we say, oh, what's happening? What's wrong? If my mobile gets stuck somewhere, I get fidgety. Oh, what's happening? What's happening? So we are used to this hectic type of life. We say instantané, so much used to it that we hardly pause and reflect, where are we going? So where are we going in this play, which we call life? It's very important to come back to our identity. Just like on a physical level, my physical identity defines how I think, what are the words I pronounce, how do I behave toward other people, what are the activities I get engaged into. It all, and so on and so forth. It is all based on our physical identity. Right now, if we forget who are we, where do we come from, what are we supposed to be doing, we have, say, trauma or amnesia, then we are lost. So, but the other thing, when we are talking about souls, in fact, we should say we are souls in human garb. We are the one who is animating this physical frame of flesh and bones taken from nature. And what is our relationship? When we are talking about consciousness, it's all based on what we say relationships. Relationship with ourself, relationship with our body, relationship with others, relationship with nature, with the animal species, etc., etc. We're coming back to the relationship. If we don't have a sense of self-respect, we don't have a sense of true identity, who am I, not really firm and stable, then whatever we do, it goes out of tune. It is not necessarily how well we are doing it. It's not necessarily going in the right direction. We have 2 sets of values that goes with these 2 things. With the body, we have a lot of good qualities, a lot of values, which we call it acquired through our life experiences, through the profession that we are having, through memories, through many other factors. We develop what's called certain qualities which we say they are acquired. But sometimes they fall short. They fall short in such a way that we are what people have qualified as implementation paralysis. Suppose you go to an examination hall and suddenly you have panic and everything that you have prepared goes blank. Your mind goes blank and you're not able to remember. We are gripped by fear, or we are gripped by negativities, and so on and so forth. So why is it so? It all stems from the awareness of that we are bodies, forgetting that we are souls. Whom do we put first? Should we put the horse or the cart first? Normally we should put the horse first, then the cart. It's not the other way around. But nowadays, because our attention is more towards the external, 99.9%, we have reversed the position. We have put ourselves, relegated ourselves to the second position and put the horse, that is the body, in front of us. And we have developed something called body consciousness. Whatever we do in body consciousness, they are bound to somewhere have a negative impact. Whereas when we are putting ourselves first, that we are spiritual beings, and we become aware of it, and this is the effort of spiritualists, and all those who want to reach enlightenment, is to awaken themselves and become aware that what is it that I have within me. When I start exploring through meditation in that mode of silence and stillness, it is said in silence lies the highest source of inspiration. If I'm able to reach that stillness, that silence within, just like when I'm looking into a lake which is very calm and composed, très lisse, I can see what's inside. I can see the sky and the trees reflecting in the water. All these laws I have been speaking about, the interconnectivity, everything becomes clear to us. Et on dit voir c'est pouvoir. Once I start seeing things, it opens a whole different avenue. And when we are speaking about enlightenment or awakening, we reach a stage when we start seeing things inside. C'est ça qu'on appelle le insight. The insight. So the whole plethora, the whole vista, the beauty and splendor of nature speaks to us. And we start coming back into incongruence, in conformity, in alignment with the laws of nature. And once we come back to our original state of who we were right in the beginning, before we identified ourselves with the body, we have access to our own innermost treasures. When Brother Vikas was speaking about victory, and I would say that we are bound to reach that victory soon, because of the amount of people who are showing interest in spirituality, in the power of thought. So when we have access to our innate treasures, and those treasures are peace, there are a lot of treasures, but I'm speaking about 7 cardinal fundamental qualities, the core qualities that comes from our innermost being. First and foremost is peace, a state of inner peacefulness. Then purity, say cleanliness if you wish, in an elementary term. Peace, purity. Then strength or power, spiritual power. Power not to dominate others, power not over others, but power first and foremost over ourselves. That's why the sages used to say, if you win your mind, you'll rule the universe. So power over ourselves, first and foremost, master our innermost strength, our virtues, powers, knowledge. Another sage said, learning is finding out what we already know. So we have an inner knowingness. We in our organization, we believe that each and every individual, we are endowed with something very, very special and also very unique. What you have, like you are trying to preserve the unique species, but the highest species is human being. How are we preserving our uniqueness? Do we go and seek what is there within each one of us? Et il faut de tout pour faire un monde. If all of us connect and go into the depth of our specialities and bring our specialities, it suffices only a small percentage, the critical mass that people have been speaking about. And once we reach the critical mass, it will tip the scale. So I was talking about the qualities, peace, purity, power, then love. Love makes the world go round. Infinite love, limitless love, pure love, soul-conscious love. Then we have the light of knowledge. Just like physical light shows us perspective, when we come to know who are we, what are we doing here on earth, what is this play called life, then it sheds light on many factors that we are so far oblivious of. Then we have truth, which is very closely connected to. Then we have happiness and we have bliss. There's a doctor in India called Dr. Gupta. He's been working on those 7 attributes of the soul, relating it to the 7 systems of the body. And he has done a very beautiful work on that, and he has developed a cure for heart patients, especially those who have got their arteries blocked. Very interesting, and he's getting a lot of success in that. So coming back to our quality, when we say our innate qualities, they are like inside us, innate. When we say innate and inherent, they are part and parcel of our inner life. This is what constitutes our being. But we have forgotten our innate qualities because we are identifying ourselves as the human body. Now, there has been a lot of experiment even by scientists, as Brother Vikas rightly said that most of the scientists believe in spirituality now. The one I'm quoting is Dr. Emoto Masaru, sorry, I'm not getting the name proper, Emoto Masaru. He has been showing the impact of our thought on molecules in water, and let alone about his experimentation, but we can also do it at our own level. If you come into a room where we have had a hot discussion People say, I could have cut the air with a knife. It feels so tangible. So the atmosphere today is tense nowadays with fear, with all those negativities happening across the globe. And yet we say there is light at the end of the tunnel. There's a silver lining, and we are reaching there. I would like to inform you that we are soon coming out of the tunnel, but we are going through the tunnel right now. But if we focus, like Brother Vasan rightly said, and if we go in alignment with the natural laws governing the soul, the spirit, when we come in alignment with our own natural laws, that is, we align ourselves with those innate qualities, then it repercutes. It comes back in our thoughts, words, actions, attitude, behavior, relationship, interaction, and so on and so forth. So first, it has an impact on our health. That's why we're talking about psychosomatic diseases. Then it goes into relationships, and you know the whole chain. So we have the power. It has been rightly said that man is the highest being in the hierarchy of beings. But we have forgotten that power, as you rightly said, Brother Vasan was mentioning to that. And I'll come back to what Krishna was sharing about laws. So when we see what are we doing, what is it that we are thinking, what are the thoughts, the quality of thoughts we are having, the type of words we pronounce, the actions, the activities we are undergoing, the behavior, the attitudes, so on and so forth. This is what's making up the world. When we see those things going on, we have to check whether these are in congruence, in alignment with those natural laws. And this calls for respect. This calls for respect. So let's see, the first thing that's closest to us is our body. Long ago, our grandmothers used to say, be careful how you walk. Tread the ground softly. When you go and pluck something from the garden, maybe a fruit or a flower, go and ask the tree permission. Thank the tree. When you're taking your food, have some prayer. Have a prayer thanking God, the elements of nature, the souls who have contributed. These are the type of thoughts that comes when you are in alignment with those natural laws. We are in alignment with those innate qualities of the soul or the spirit. But very often we see, let's take the very first one, peacefulness. It is fundamental for us, for planning, for discernment, that we have a state of mind that is really, really peaceful. Do we sometimes stop in our thoughts and observe the natural peace that's there already all the time, accessible to us? Hardly. Hardly. And now when we say respect for this body, come back again to this point, it has also been referred to, the body is like a temple. When you go into a temple or in a place where people are invoking God, you find real, true peace. So when we look at our state of mind inside, it's all the time crowded. It's all the time having lot and lot of the chattering mind incessantly going on and on and on. But if we give ourselves the chance, as people are doing nowadays more and more, going back to that our original state of peacefulness and silence, then we'll come in alignment not only with our innate qualities and natural laws, but we will also find the strength, the power, and that is the fuel that will enable us to do the right action. Because sometimes we're doing a lot of work, a lot of things, but somehow it misses its target because we are not doing it in the right frame of mind. So these are a few thoughts that I have been sharing. And I would say, come back to it again, when we say we have to be master of our life, we need to master the mind. I'll talk about something which we call, some of you talked about the team. Three of you, both, all three of you spoke about something referring to team. So there's an inner team within us which we have to align. That team is TEAM. T stands for thoughts, pure, positive, powerful, productive, effective, conducive, harmonious thoughts. And that comes when we have our identity. We are well anchored in our identity. We need to dig deeper and deeper into our identity. It is said, the deeper you dig, the higher you rise. If we want to raise our standard of living inside out, we need to dig inside, go into introversion, in meditation. So the second is emotions, or if I'm going to use a better language, I would be using the word feelings, because when we refer to emotions, it's like our energy goes in motion. So emotions, or pure positive emotions, which we call as feelings, we are all very attentive on the feel good factor. We want to feel good where we are. The third is, I think you have guessed, is attitude. We see attitude travels faster and faster than light. Then we have the memories. So that goes back to the first thing that I said. It's of remembering. It's only remembering who are we. Because we have by going through our life on earth, we have had many lives. In each life we have covered ourselves with many layers of memories, and our original memory of who we are has been lost. So meditation, Raj Yoga meditation, word meditation refers to its origin is from the Latin word medere, which means to heal. So first and foremost, we need to heal our own heart, our own mind, bring it on our original state, what it was, and then it ripples out to all other spheres of life. As we said, we are the highest being in the hierarchy of being. We have the ability to think, to discern, to decide. Then we say the mind and the matter, the team, like a memory. Yeah, we're talking about memories. The memories, it's laying deep inside, and that's why some of the scientists have been doing some research on what's called conscious and then subconscious. And I will tell you the unconscious level. We have sometimes in our talking language, we say, I unconsciously did that. So I was being dictated by habit. C'est pourquoi on dit l'homme est créature des habitudes. So what are the habits? How will they come into our being? It's because we have been conditioned in our life on earth. Instead of being masters, we have become slaves of our senses. This is the entry point of how we have been overpowered by what's happening outside. So now it's time to take our stand. It's time to take our awareness and again help nature, because we have been contributing in bringing the state of affairs where nature has fallen right now. It's our sacred duty. We are stewards, as most of you rightly said. We have to take care, we have to protect, and we have to assume our sense of responsibility, have these main values. We have to exercise our responsibility, sacred responsibility towards protecting nature, enhancing nature, because we have our own contribution of our goodness to bring to nature. Then we have also what we call them, I've lost the link. So we have to contribute. Well, I lost the link, sorry. So that's all what I feel like. I was talking about the values, understanding, acceptance, responsibility, respect, and so on and so forth. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Sister Gayatri, for this wonderful sharing from within. As we were mentioning that the Brahma Kumaris used to participate and is still participating in climate change conferences. And the approach that we have is what we call the inside-out approach. So whatever problem is there outside, we need to go within and from there find a solution. Then that solution will be sustainable. And of course, most of the speakers, Vasen and Vikash and Krishti, said that, we are pointing towards that. We talk about mindset, we talk about consciousness, we talk about spirituality, and I think we're in the right direction. So thank you very much, Sister Gayatri, and we are a bit ahead of our schedules. And if there's anyone among you speakers who would like to ask a question among ourselves, you can just ask, or else we'll go for our meditation, a meditation commentary on nature. So okay, so I think the message was very clear. And so are you ready for the meditation commentary? It's a nice meditation commentary. It will be in French. So just to make sure we have a balance, we've been talking in English, so we have now a switch to French. So maybe Sister Gayatri, just give some few guidelines how to go ahead with the meditation, like how to sit and how to...
Yes, I was sharing that how when we reach that inner stillness, we have enlightenment, we have clarity. So I would suggest that let us for a moment forget our physical identity. Forget for some time, just like we do when we are sleeping. We are not aware of our roles, our responsibilities, our relationships, of what's happening around us. Let's for a while go for an adventure. Let us take it very positively, enthusiastically, and anticipating some discovery, some experience, and let us go into the world of silence. So let's observe silence for a few minutes, not minutes, but few seconds. I'll give a brief commentary before we enter the French commentary. So sit down straight, with the back straight. If you wish, you can close your eyes, or if you wish to leave it open, it's all right. You can focus on any point in front of you. Just put your gaze somewhere. Relax. Take a deep breath. As you inhale, imagine you're inhaling the fragrance of peace. And as you exhale, imagine that you're throwing away all peacelessness, stress, tension, if any, or anything pertaining to the world of activities. Let us go still inside and listen. Listen to the thoughts in the silence of our mind. See the space between the thoughts and behind the thoughts. And we have access to our original state of true, pure, infinite, vast, deep peacefulness. And now, let's listen to the commentary.
Imaginez-vous devant une scène de la nature, un paysage magnifique, un paysage de montagne que dévalent des rivières aux eaux pures et cristallines. Sous un magnifique soleil doré. Prenez le temps de contempler cette magnifique nature. Mon cœur est plein de gratitude pour la mère nature. La terre, cet élément de nature, est comme une mère nourricière. Mon sentiment de reconnaissance pour la terre est très profond, très sincère. La terre me nourrit. Elle m'a toujours supporté, comme une mère. Elle donne sans compter, sans rien attendre. Elle a toujours donné. Elle a toujours pardonné. La terre est stable, généreuse, nourricière. Elle offre un support pour poser mes pieds. Elle nourrit les plantes, les animaux, le monde vivant. Comme la terre, je suis stable. Dans ma stabilité, mes pensées et mes actes nourrissent non seulement les personnes, mais aussi tout mon environnement. Pour servir la terre, je dois apprendre à vivre avec elle. Je dois savoir garder les pieds sur terre et me tenir aux côtés des autres avec assurance. Servir la terre, c'est m'impliquer et trouver une place dans le cœur de chacun. Comme une mère pour chacun de ses enfants. Servir la terre, c'est aussi prendre soin de mon corps physique. Comprendre le rôle de chaque cellule pour ne jamais les pousser au-delà de leurs limites. Vivre en harmonie avec les autres, en appréciant leur spécialité, c'est respecter la nature, respecter la terre. Je n'abandonne jamais l'autre, sous prétexte que ma tâche est terminée. Mais je l'accompagne en respectant son existence. La terre n'abandonne jamais. Je suis si reconnaissant envers la terre-mère qui m'a tant supporté, nourri, soigné. Et même si j'ai parfois mal utilisé la matière, elle m'a toujours pardonné. Alors j'apprends moi aussi à pardonner, à ouvrir mon cœur à l'autre.
So that was a glimpse of a meditation we usually have for the environment, for nature. Unfortunately, we are a bit ahead of our schedules, and we'd like to thank everyone who has joined us on Facebook and YouTube. And maybe we'd like to have some few words, just end words from Krishni and Vasan, who are still with us. So yes, Krishni, just some end words. How you feel after this program?
So I wanted to thank you, Vikram, and the Brahma Kumaris, Mauritius, for organizing this. It was really a pleasure and a privilege to be among Vikram and Vasan, whom I really admire. Vikash, sorry, and Vasan, whom I really admire. And it's been great hearing about their experiences, their viewpoints about this very interesting topic. And I hope that the audience have also benefited from this conversation. And I hope that, we continue taking care of the environment and lobby and, for our governments to stop, the fossil fuel industries from ruining our future. So as an activist, I think that now is even more important to protect the environment after the COVID-19 pandemic. So I hope we have more conversations of this nature. So thank you very much, Vikram and Brahma Kumaris.
Thank you, Krishni, and I wish you lots of success for all your endeavors, and you're truly an inspiration for the youth, and keep on doing the good work, and see you soon. Now we'd like to hear from Vasan and some few experiences. Vasan?
Yes. Of course, I wish to thank you for having organized this event, but I think that we all have to reflect on our role and our place in this universe, and on the fact that everything that we do has an impact on our future. So we have to act now, and we have to shape our future. And I think that all these actions, all this energy that we have in the youth and in all those people who are convinced about protecting this environment needs to converge into a better future. And I believe in a better future. So I think that we're on the right path, and now we should walk one foot after the other towards this objective. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vasan, for being with us, and I'm sure you will be for our future invitation for the environment and all whatever concerns the environment, ecology, and other initiatives that the Brahma Kumaris take. You will be with us, and you will share your wisdom. Vikash is not with us. I'd like to thank Vikash, and I wish him lots of success for all the conservation projects that he is leading. And thank you everyone for being with us. Thank you, Sister Gayatri, for really showing us another perspective on environment and ecology. Thank you all the viewers from YouTube and Facebook who has been here. And I would like to convey to you my greetings, and nice evening to every one of us. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and like our page, Global Peace House, if you haven't done so. And I wish you also a nice weekend, and stay safe at home. And I would like to end with a quote: be the change you want to see in the world. Om Shanti. Bye bye. Au revoir.